Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, Chapter 6. This is the English exercise of Chapter 6, to be done after viewing the video on the syntax of Chapter 6, the dative case, dative of indirect object, and dative of possession. So the dative of indirect object indicates the indirect object, the noun which is somehow, and this is why the dative case is sometimes mysterious to students, the indirect object is somehow affected by the action of the verb. More simply, we can just put the prepositional phrase to or for the noun as the translation for the dative. Usually the dative indirect object receives the accusative direct object. So donum puellae do, I give the accusative direct object gift to the dative puellae, to the girl. The gift to the girl I give. We could also say I give the girl the gift, because English has this nifty thing with word order where we have the subject, we have the verb. If we put the indirect object immediately before the direct object, yeah, that's how that works. Otherwise, we can use the prepositional phrase to or for the noun. I give the direct object to the indirect object. Do not confuse this with ad plus the accusative of motion. We are not moving towards the girl. That would be ad puellam, towards the girl, movement towards. So porto, I am carrying aquam, water, towards the girl, meaning that there's this direct object that I am carrying and it's in motion towards this girl. Here I am giving the gift to the girl. I'm not moving towards her, I'm just handing this gift off to her. Now, I could also say porto aquam puellae, or aquam puellae porto. That would mean I am carrying the water for, dative for the girl, like she's somehow being indirectly affected by the action of me carrying the water. It's for her. The dative of possession indicates that ownership exists. Something is being possessed or owned with the verb sum esse fui futurus. Erat amico meo filius, literally, erat, there was, amico meo, to my son, a filius. Amico meo, to my friend, a filius, a son. There was a son, a filius, amico meo, to my friend. My friend had a son. The dative emphasizes that ownership or possession exists. It is taking place. It's usually used with familial relations and also with the phrase mihi nomen est, my name is. All right, let's underline the verbs, circle direct objects, and box any indirect objects in the following sentences. So, number 1, Marcus gave the gift to Julius. Marcus gave the gift to Julius. Underline the verbs. The verb is gave, underlining that verb, that action word. We'll circle the direct object. What did Marcus give? Marcus did not give Julius, but he gave the gift. Circle the direct object, the gift, and then we're going to box the indirect object. Who gets the gift? And that's going to be Julius. So box to Julius. Remember, in Latin, Latin does not have a preposition to or for to indicate the indirect object. Latin just uses the dative case. Number 2, he bought horses for the soldiers. So he bought horses for the soldiers. The verb is bought, underline the verb, circle the direct object. What did he buy? He bought horses. We're circling the direct object in the accusative. For whom? Who gets indirectly affected by the action of the buying of the horses? That it would be the soldiers. So the action really happens to the horses because they get bought, but indirectly the soldiers get affected. So we're going to box for the soldiers. That would be dative, to or for the noun. Sentence 3, he bought the soldiers horses. He bought the soldiers horses. So we're underlining the verb bought. We're going to ask ourselves, what did he buy? Did he buy the soldiers or did he buy the horses? So he bought the horses. Circle the direct object, box the indirect object, the soldiers. Remember that English has that nifty word order thing with subject, verb, indirect object immediately preceding the direct object loses the preposition. So this is our dative indirect object, the soldiers. It's the same thing as sentence 2. He bought horses for the soldiers. 4. Did the teacher give the pencil to Decius? Did the teacher give the pencil to Decius? So we have a question, an interrogative. So remember, we invert the subject and the helping verb when we have these. So the verb is going to be give. You can also underline the helping verb did give if you want. So give. Who did the giving? That's the teacher. So that's our subject. We don't do anything with the subject. So make sure we have our give verb underlined. What did the teacher give? Circle the pencil. That's our direct object. And then box to Decius. Preposition to or for, to Decius, the dative indirect object. 5. He gave permission to the general. He gave permission to the general. Underline gave. We're going to ask, what did he give? He gave permission. Circle permission, accusative direct object, box to the general, because that is our dative indirect object, to or for the noun. 6. He gave Julia the money. So underline gave. What did he give? Did he give Julia? No, he gave the money. We're going to circle the money, the direct object money, and then box Julia. Box Julia. Julia is our indirect object. This is why it is helpful to always ask yourself, what receives the action of the verb? What did he give? Did he give Julia or did he give the money? Well, he gave the money, and the money went to Julia. So make sure that you understand that the money is the direct object that is circled, and Julia is the indirect object which is boxed. 7. Is she bringing the water for the horse? Once again, another interrogative. You can tell by the question mark. We've inverted the subject she and the helping verb is. So if it makes you feel better, you can always put it back the way it was. She is bringing the water for the horse. Now it's no longer an interrogative. It's a declarative. So verb is bringing. What is she bringing? She's bringing the water. Circle the water, the direct object, and it's for the dative indirect object horse, to or for the noun. So box for the horse. 8. Will you give the gift to the queen? Another question, another interrogative. We've inverted the subject with the helping verb. So you will give the gift to the queen would be the declarative non-interrogative version. So give, underline give, that's our verb. What are we giving? Are we giving the gift or are we giving the queen? We are giving the gift. Circle the gift, box to the queen, dative, to the queen. 9. Was he giving the queen the gifts? Was he giving the queen the gifts? Another interrogative. Was he giving? So you would invert these. So he was giving the queen the gifts to get the declarative. The verb is giving. What was he giving? Was he giving the queen or was he giving the gifts? He was given the gifts. So circle gifts, that would be our accusative direct object, and box the queen, that's our dative indirect object. 10. He tells the story of Troy to Dido. So verb is tells. What does he tell? He tells the story. Now we have a genitive of possession, the story of Troy, and it goes to Dido. The story, the direct object story, goes to the indirect object Dido. So Dido gets the story, the direct object. Dido, to Dido, dative indirect object. 11. He was speaking to the citizens. So speaking, underline speaking, to the citizens. This is our dative indirect object, to the citizens, to or for the verb. She won't go to Rome. She won't go to Rome. Be careful. The verb is go. That implies that there's motion. There's motion involved. To Rome. We're not giving anything to Rome. We're not doing anything for Rome. We are moving towards Rome. This is not a dative indirect object. This would be accusative motion towards. Accusative motion towards. Do not mark anything in sentence 12 except for the verb go. 13. He gave the boy the sword. So the verb is gave. Did he give the boy or did he give the sword? He gave the sword. Circle the sword as the direct object and then put a box around the boy as the indirect object in the dative. 14. The boys carry the grain for the farmer. So subject boys, carry, underline carry. Are they carrying the grain or carrying the farmer? They're carrying the grain, the accusative direct object grain, for the farmer. That would be the dative indirect object for the farmer because it's for him. The direct object is somehow for him. Optime. Very well done. You are now ready to move on to Chapter 6's Exercise B. Valete omnes.